JJK 234 spoilers are here, and it officially marks the climax of this fight, as you guys are about to see at the very end of this chapter. Two very shocking things also happen at the end of this chapter, so it kind of left me thinking that this fight might end up being a little shorter than I thought it was going to be. But let's get right into it. The chapter starts with Yuta saying he'll join the battle to help Gojo, but a heated environment builds up as Kashimo warns Yuta not to interfere. Kashimo adds, "At least it's not you that has to go next." Hikari asks Yuta to calm down and says Gojo asked them to tag in when he gets weaker than them, but Yuta rebukes staying since Sukuna's domain expansion is now disabled. He can help Gojo by handling the two Shikigamis with Rika. Yuji takes Yuta's side and encourages him to go for it. So things are getting a little heated back where everyone's watching. Kashimo just wants to let the fight play out, and Yuta of course wants to go help his master and make sure he doesn't take any more damage than he already is. It's also a pretty subtle flex by Yuta pointing out that he's going to take out both Shikigami, including Mahoraga. So without hesitation, he's just assuming that he can take on Mahoraga himself, which is pretty awesome in my opinion. Can't wait to see Yuta back in action. While in between, Maki tells Kashimo to not forget his role. If he's defeated, then the backup plan will be gone. And Yuta adds that they should take up this gamble, saying if they just win against Sukuna now, then the insurance won't be needed at all. Sukuna not being able to give his everything and Gojo at his best without any hindrance, this setup has the highest winning probability. Yuta sulks thinking that he might just be a hindrance, but Kashimo tells him that that's not the point. This is Gojo's fight and it's lame to interfere. So it's still being left a very big mystery exactly what Kashimo's role is in all of this. Because remember, he apparently has this curse technique that is specifically made to be used one time and only against Sukuna. Well, it's not made for Sukuna, but he's saving it for Sukuna, you know what I mean. And of course Kashimo's like a total Chad about the whole thing. He's more so concerned with the two strongest duking it out with no interference, but also at the same time it's a good point being made that Gojo fighting Sukuna alone as Sukuna's weakened probably has the best chances of success at the moment. But Hikari suspects that Sukuna might have a trump card and is preserving it for later, so if the sorcerers meddle in the fight now, Sukuna might just use it on them. And yeah, Hikari's right, there are a few tricks that Sukuna must have up his sleeve. I mean, we don't even know his actual curse technique yet or anything, and he hasn't pulled out the flame technique that we've seen him use in the past, and I still can't stop thinking about what Yorozu gave Sukuna at the end of their fight just before she died, because she said it was a gift, and I am almost positive that it's going to have something to do with this fight in some way. Like it's going to be used to foil Gojo somehow in the most annoying way possible. So Sukuna still definitely has a lot in his arsenal. Well, back to the fight, Gojo evades Agito and Mahoraga's attacks and lands a solid hit on Agito, but that does no damage to Agito. It tries to attack with its tail, but Gojo rips it off. Agito heals back its tail. Gojo realizes that Agito is made up of Nu that inherited Great Serpent, Morn Tiger, and Round Deer, but since it's not adapted to Limitless, Gojo plans to destroy Agito in one shot like Mahoraga. So I guess this Morn Tiger is apparently the 10th and final Shikigami in the 10 Shadows technique that we haven't seen yet, and I don't know if it's not explained in this chapter or they just weren't able to translate it for the spoilers, but two that we are aware of though is Great Serpent and Round Deer. Great Serpent is a giant snake and it pretty much just does, snake attacks. Nothing super special. But Round Deer is actually the problem here. Because if you guys remember, Sukuna used Round Deer against his fight against Yorozu. And we found out that it can use reverse curse technique to heal its user. And on top of that, also neutralize any objects controlled by cursed energy around it. So it's probably one of the more broken 10 Shadow Shikigami. And Gojo wants to get rid of it immediately. Mahoraga slashes some bricks towards Gojo and attacks him, but Gojo dodges and gives it a sharp kick. Gojo thinks it's troublesome if Agito heals Sukuna, so he plans to destroy it first. Sukuna also makes plans within the shadows to not let Gojo use purple. When Gojo blasted 120% purple, he was able to face it since it was far away and only got away with just getting his arms blown off. But Sukuna says he's not in his best conditions, so if he gets hit with 100% purple right now, then it would be fatal. I don't know why I thought that at the very beginning of the fight that Gojo hit him with a 200% hollow purple, but I guess I remembered that wrong. I guess it's not important now. Anyways, Sukuna then urges Mahoraga, "How long are you gonna make me wait? You're my shadow, not Megumi Fushigoro's. Show me what you've got." So I don't know if it was explicitly stated already, or I just completely forgot, but I guess this is confirming that the 10 shadows actually does scale to the user, meaning the 10 shadows that Sukuna controls is obviously much stronger than the 10 shadows that Megumi controlled. I mean, it was made pretty obvious through how much stronger the Shikigami seemed in Sukuna's control, but I guess this is just kind of confirming it unless it already has been confirmed. Again, I totally forgot. But that's not important because Maharaga's wheel turns a spin and it cuts off Gojo's right arm. And the attack might be similar to Sukuna's dismantle ability. Sukuna praises Maharaga while the sorcerers are confused and panicking. Shoko screams that this isn't good for Gojo because his healing is weak right now. So yeah, as she says, things are not looking good at all for Gojo. It was already stated in the previous chapter that his reverse curse technique is starting to slow down because he's just been overusing it so much. So healing from a straight up chopped off arm is a very bad situation to be in towards the end of this fight, because this is honestly the biggest damage that Gojo has taken this entire fight. Sure, he was slashed all over his body earlier with the domain expansion that Sukuna had, but I feel like it doesn't beat straight up losing a limb. So looking at this panel, it does kind of look like Maharaga uses some kind of slashing attack similar to dismantle that Sukuna uses, because he cuts off his arm from a pretty long range. But I guess we're gonna have to wait and see until the full chapter comes out for us to really know if it really was him using Sukuna's dismantle attack somehow, or just some kind of regular slash. Because if he can use dismantle and some of Sukuna's other abilities, I mean, Maharaga's already super broken. That would make him way too broken. So we'll just have to wait and see for that. Sukuna reappears from the shadows and kicks Gojo towards Agito, who's waiting with an attack ready to hit Gojo. Agito lands a punch on Gojo's head, but Gojo summons a blue orb and tells Agito with a maniac smile that from a while ago, it wasn't worthy enough to be here. Gojo punches down Agito with just his left arm and thrashes it around with blue maximum output. This of course is why Gojo is goated, guys. I mean, after losing an arm, he straight up looks Agito right in the face and he's like, you don't belong here, and straight up demolishes it with the maximum output blue. Gojo's blue totally crushes Agito and destroys it. The narrator tells that after this, 41 seconds have passed and Gojo's purple has ripped through the battlefield in Shinjuku. So it's also added at the end to not be confused by this statement, because it actually means that Gojo's purple will be coming in the next chapter pretty much. So it's not here quite yet, but it's coming, which is really exciting because I actually just dropped a video where I talk about what Gojo's maximum technique could potentially be and how it involves purple. So check that one out if you feel like it. But I mean, man, Gojo destroying Agito so savagely and in his usual carefree, smug way was such a good way for Gojo to reassert himself in this fight, because things were not looking good for him when he got his arm chopped off. But apparently 41 seconds has now passed, and since Gojo pointed out in the previous chapter that his attack that he's about to use has some sort of charge time, then maybe it takes about a minute. Can't be too much longer because the editor's comment at the end of the chapter goes as follows: and the battle goes into climax. And there's no break next chapter, so we're about to get a seriously insane and peak chapter in the next one. I know it, I feel it. It's definitely coming, so if you want to know as soon as the spoilers drop next week, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on. That is it for this one though, guys. Have an absolutely wonderful day, night, morning, whatever, and I'll see you guys in the next one.